Welcome back to another episode of the Ben and Bergs podcast. I'm Ben, your favorite high school dropout and founder of Collective Shift. Alongside me is Bergs, your favorite MBA and COO of Collective Shift. Join us as we bring you world-class crypto research and strategies to help you dominate this crypto bull market, as well as behind-the-scenes view of us scaling the best crypto research company here in Australia. And if you like the podcast, we'd love for you to leave us a follow on your favorite podcasting app or give us a subscribe if you are on YouTube. And sorry for being a week between episodes, Bergs. I got absolutely knocked out in the Philippines. Hit for 6, man.
Mate, you landed almost instant food poisoning.
Oh, it's bad. So got in yesterday. We're here in Melbourne. Bergs has flown over. I've had to see him in real life, which is, unfortunate for me, but I'll deal with it.
Sky. Let's talk about how dramatic you were in the Philippines, mate.
Oh,
You sent us a little video. You're in your room, in your little dressing gown. You got like a nurse and a doctor next to you like, oh, no good.
Mate,
you can't just ride out a bit of gastro like everyone else. You have to call in the big guns, mate.
It wasn't just gastro, mate.
It's such a sook.
There was fluids coming out of places you don't want fluids to come out of. It was bad.
Trust you to cop that, mate. As soon as you land, just cop it. And we've got a massive week in Melbourne and Ben's like, oh, there's a spare 3 days. I'm going to go to the Philippines. Why not? I'm like, mate, you're not going to make it back in time. It's ridiculous. Oh, no, I can do it. I can do everything. I'm going to take my podcasting gear. It's going to be amazing. Don't worry about it. Did no meetings, no podcasts, absolutely nothing. Classic Ben Simpson.
I did have a big day at work on Saturday. I was feeling a bit better from my bedroom. It was actually good because I didn't have to meet with you. Could get some work done.
Yeah, because that'll make up for it, mate. Yeah, brilliant. And all I've heard about is how Bitcoin's at 71,500, mate.
And that is exactly what we're talking about. So today, folks, Bitcoin has flown through 70,000. We're only at 67,000 yesterday. And today, at time of recording, we're at 71,300. By the time this episode comes out, who knows what's going to happen. So we wanted to do an episode today on how high can this crypto bull market really go. And this is always a much funner episode to do when the market's going up, Bergs. Because you can talk about this when the market's going down. It doesn't really seem realistic. But when it's pumping like it is today, it just gets a little pep in the step.
It's actually happening, mate.
It's actually happening. I was here before the show, literally hitting the refresh button going, holy hell, we're on the way up. Bergs is trying to keep the reins on. But as I reminded him, I'm 100% exposed to this market, and this is a very exciting when it's paying out.
You did remind me how dialed in you are, Ben. How long you've been waiting for this? 17 years in crypto.
I've been waiting 40 years for this moment. Before I was even a thought, I was thinking about this moment.
Amazing. No, I know this means a lot to you, mate. The business, everything is geared towards this.
Everything's
all your investments.
So super excited. So we wanted to talk about what are some actual, realistic price targets to help you with your sell strategy and actually understanding where this could go. So we're going to just focus on Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol today. Looking at some of the data to help you think about these projections is really important because it can kind of give you an understanding of, where things are going. So I think the first thing to just remember, and this is a classic old, retail thought, Bergs, is the classic unit bias.
Oh.
And all I think about when I think about this is the XRP army, right? Who have been holding on to their hopes and dreams for goodness knows how long, and yet do they realize that this asset is not going anywhere and hasn't gone anywhere for 4 years. And that idea of, when XRP hits $10 or when it hits $20 is just ludicrous because that's not how it works.
All it has to do, mate, is go from like whatever it is now, $3 to $20, mate. That's all it has to do, Ben.
Mate, they've been saying it for 7 years and it's just done absolutely nothing. So literally for XRP to hit $20, its market cap would have to literally get to about 1.1 trillion, which is nearly the current size of Bitcoin, which is nuts, right? So just remember that unit bias, it doesn't matter how much the token is, it makes zero difference. It's about the market cap, right? So how high will the majors get? Well, if we look at the last 3 bull markets, let's just start at the market cap, Berg. So the first cycle back in 2012, we went from 44 million to 14 billion, 33,000% increase, right? I think those days are quite over.
They're very behind us.
They're very behind us, but it was a lot, right? The 2016 cycle, we went from 8 billion to 800 billion, so nearly a 10,000% increase. But more recently, the last cycle, the 2020 cycle, where we went from 200 billion to 3.1 trillion, a 1,400% increase, right? So based on the current bottom market cap hitting around that 800 billion this cycle when the FTX bottom, if we account for the total 500% growth, well then the market cap of this cycle hit around 5 trillion. So using this as like just a basic moderate base case, we think that a 500% increase is moderate, which will get us to about that 4.8 trillion. Optimistic being 700%, get us to 6.4 trillion, or a conservative 300%. Now, if we we overlay that as one just previous, factor. And we also look at things like the market cap dominance at the peak, which was previous cycles. We look at the previous all-time high growth to all-time high growth, and we look at the average expert projection based on our team and sort of collate these. If we look at Bitcoin, based on the 4 different projection types, we're sitting somewhere around that potential market cap target of Bitcoin of somewhere between that 2.5 trillion to 3.4 trillion, which would sit us somewhere between 140,000 US and 180,000 US, which I think is pretty likely. Now, we're not going through all the sort of details of how we come up with that, but the most basic projection would be just Bitcoin hits the 60% dominance at that 5 trillion market cap. And we look at those sort of previous all-time high to all-time high growth, which is probably one of the most realistic ones. So if we look back at 2020 at the market cap peak of 1.3 trillion, we had about a 310% growth. I think this cycle we're probably optimistically going to have around that 150% growth from Bitcoin. So from a Bitcoin perspective, I think moderately, as I said, we're looking at I'm thinking around that 150,000 US dollar level. I think that's probably what most people are thinking. I'm definitely going to be taking profits leading up to that point, Bergs. I'm not going to be waiting for that because I think a lot of people are going to be waiting for that number. But yeah, I think that's just a simple projection based on 4 different projection types that sort of spat out that number. Are you thinking the same?
Definitely, man. I've said for a while around that 150K mark. That's a target for me. I think we will reach that. I actually think we'll exceed that now, just based on everything that's happened, and we're already halfway there to that target. So, you double your money if you invest now. I think so. I've been in Melbourne. I've been here a few days, talked to our analysts, and yeah, it's kind of a meme where it's like we're still early, but we really, really are. These things are going to stay. I've been talking to a lot of people recently, and I think we're going a lot higher than that, but I will start offloading around the 150K mark for sure.
Yeah, I think for those that haven't been in the bull market or it's been a while, like it's important to remember these things in a bull market. It happens quickly, doesn't it? It just all of a sudden, we're at 67 yesterday and now it's 71.5 today, and all of a sudden we're at 83 and then it's 104, and all of a sudden, it happens that quick.
It does. It's phenomenal. You're going up like, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a day. And just back to the unit cost bias we talked about previously. Do you want to own XRP or Bitcoin? You want to own Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. If you knew, you can buy $1 worth of it. You can buy $2, $10. You can keep adding to it over time. And the thing we're looking at through all of this is market cap, which is price times quantity, market supply. Bitcoin is definitely the one that you want to own. All eyes on Bitcoin at the moment. It's absolutely running. And even though we're only talking about the majors now, Ben, just to simplify this episode, mate, what's altcoin season going to be like?
Yeah, well, that's another episode because things get pretty interesting there. I think one of the biggest things that we need to see for altcoin season to really run is obviously Ethereum to really start to perform. Like the ETH BTC chart has been pretty bleak. I don't really think it's going to start to turn around until after the election. And, Bitcoin dominance is nearly at 60% at the moment, which is a 3.5-year high, which is pretty nuts, right?
So isn't this interesting? We're not that far off all-time highs on Bitcoin. And the election's when, next Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
So a week away. We're recording on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah. It's all
going to happen.
I think we're praying for a Trump election from a crypto perspective. I don't know about the rest of the world, but for crypto, it's going to be super bullish.
I think even just the clarity of having a winner, the market can stop focusing on it and we can move on.
Yeah, if you look at the last 3 elections leading up to it's always been choppy, but then post-election things have really opened up. So let's look at Ethereum. So a couple of less cycles under its belt, so a little bit less historical data to look at. But I think a lot of people are looking at that $10,000 level as the level where people are going to try and take profits or start to sell. But a lot must go right to get there. We'd essentially need, based on the market caps that we were projecting, Ethereum's dominance would need to hit 25% in an optimistic case, and roughly most probably around that 15 to 20% market share. So if Ethereum was to get to 10,000 plus, we would essentially need to see ETH dominance at 20%. And the market cap to hit around 1.53 trillion. So, it is a long way from where we are now. We're we were in the previous cycle of 2020, Ethereum did a 3,100% increase, so 31x. It went from 150 to 4,800 at the bottom. Now, where we were at the cycle start of 2024 was at 1,750. We would essentially need, to see around that 300% growth to get to 7,000 this cycle. So following the same trajectory as previous cycles, we think a realistic base case for ETH is around that $7,000 level, which would be about a 300% growth from where we were at the cycle bottom being 1,750 in 2024. So that's where we're thinking. Again, Ethereum has really underperformed, so that's absolutely not a given. I'm still very bullish on Ethereum, and I think we'll start to see the momentum shift. Sentiment has been pretty poor, but I do think that Ethereum will start to outperform, if not this quarter, next quarter.
Yeah, I think his time is coming, man.
Yeah.
Like, it still looks really tasty to buy, but all eyes are definitely on Bitcoin. And just on Bitcoin, mate, the gold market cap is 18.5 trillion. And within this, we've said to get to $180,000, it's only 3.4 trillion market cap.
Still tiny compared to gold.
Yeah, still like 15 trillion. So we'd like to have to 5x from there. It's about 900K Bitcoin to reach the market cap of gold.
Yeah.
900K per Bitcoin, which is insane.
That's US dollars as well, team. So
yes.
it's just pretty bullish levels. Now, if we look at Solana, again, Solana has even less than Ethereum and Bitcoin, but based on a dominance level of 7.5%, looking at the prices from high to low, and also compared to ETH in the second cycle in the ETH market cap, we are saying that somewhere between that sort of $450 to, let's say, $690. I know that's quite an open range, but it's quite hard, a little bit harder to sort of analyze based on previous cycles. So, some analysis is showing Solana to hit levels between 800 and 1,000. That would essentially have to require Solana to attain nearly 10% dominance of the market, and the market cap of crypto to hit that upper bound of 5 to 7 trillion. So that would mean Solana will be roughly 400 billion in market cap, which is very, very high. And it's going to be, if it's there, I don't think it's going to be there for long. So understanding Solana as well, it has a much higher inflation rate when it comes to the other assets. So at the moment, Solana is actually issuing new coins at 4.96% annually, compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is under 1%. So Solana is issuing a lot more supply into the circulating sort of supply of this token. So yeah, understanding that is super important, because I think that once the price starts to go, it's going to need to maintain a lot more demand for the price to stay up as it's issuing more tokens. But, stupider things have been done.
And this is the thing, like, things can get, as you go further out on the risk curve. So we've gone from Bitcoin, slightly more risky ETH, slightly more risky Sol. As you go further out on the risk curve, there's potential for insane gains and insanity to happen. And because they're not as stable, they don't have as much money behind them. And those insanity points, they can be very, very quick. So you can reach those targets, but it'll be quite quick. So you have to be, the further out you go, the more you have to be on it, the more you have to be monitoring.
Yeah, and if you need help with your sell strategy, or just even looking at some research around the sell strategy, make sure you check out our episode we did 2 or 3 episodes ago, which was like what selling the top actually looks like. We looked at some data there to help you sort of analyze that. But the last thing we really want to leave you all with is just understanding the price targets aren't everything. Like, none of us have a crystal ball. We're just looking on historical data, and, evidently there's not a lot of historical data for a lot of these assets. So understanding, other things around those token unlocks, demand drivers, adoption, and also just like, things outside of the price in terms of sentiment and other things is super important. Remembering where we are now in terms of the cycle as well, we're compared to previous 2 cycles, we're about 100 to 300 days away from the typical cycle peak. So we've potentially got 3 to 9 months still of bullish action, and that the top doesn't last for long. So ensuring you have that sort of dialed in, sell strategy, and have some research. And obviously we're here to help on Ben and Bergs, but know that we're giving you, our listeners as much as we can, but ultimately, all of our best stuff is in the platform. So if you need some help and you really have a decent amount of money in crypto, I would recommend jumping on, checking out some of our, content on the platform. And, I think that's really where it's going to make a big difference. But
Definitely.
Yeah.
And even just looking at Solana. So people that have been in crypto a while, or even for a year or two, if you were buying Solana like a year ago, you'd be buying that at $30.
Yeah.
It's now $180.
Yeah.
Right? That's a 6x, 600%. Where in the world are you going to get that kind of return? And we're talking like hefty numbers, like up to $800.
Mhm.
It's going to be insane. And even if you've got that 6x, if you've achieved some of your goals, consider taking profits on that.
Yeah.
You know, nothing is a given, nothing is a guarantee. And if you've got significant gains, capture those gains, take some chips off the table,
Yeah.
live a good
Totally.
life, leave something there to play along with, and capitalize on this bull run. But even those numbers, I'm going to be very keen when this really kicks off to revisit this episode when things are really frothing and see where we actually get to.
Yeah, because we've only talked about the top three here, and we're actually just talking before the podcast that so Maple, that I know a lot of you know that I'm bullish on. So I shared this as an investment to the members July last year at $5.50. Hit $24 today, so up 333%. And the ETH BTC chart is the worst it's been in 3 years, and Bitcoin dominance is at 60%. Like I think some of these assets, when it comes time to party, that these are going to really rip. And it's ensuring you got that sell strategy to take profits is going to be important.
I wish we were recording, mate. You were so happy. You were so chuffed. You're like, oh,
I was so
24
bullish,
bucks,
guys.
mate.
I'm still bullish.
That's it. Like, I'm not selling anything.
Hopefully that's helpful, team. There's some good insights. Again, if you need some help, jump on our website. We can book in a call with one of our team and see where you're at. We can show you some of the research. We can get you a bit of a look in to see if it's going to be a good fit for you. And yeah, absolutely crush this cycle.
Definitely get some help with selling the top, get your portfolio sorted, and capitalize on this. And don't wait another 4 years. Don't make that mistake.
Let's make some money. Thanks, guys. See you on the next episode.
Thanks, champions.